It is said that the purpose of art is to create order out of chaos and confusion. 25 years ago, I chose to enter into the chaos of the Middle Passage, believing in the wisdom of the words that say, self-knowledge is the antidote for confusion. So today, when I'm asked what kind of work I do, I answer, I am an illustrator, a storyteller in visual form who tries to reflect and interpret Black life as I see it, feel it, and have experienced it. When I'm asked who I am, I say I'm an African who was born in America. Both answers connect me specifically with my past and present, for I believe I bring to my work a spiritual quality which is rooted in the culture of Africa and expanded in many ways by the experience of being Black in America. It's a dual heritage. Storytelling is an ancient African tradition where the values and history of a people are passed on to the young verbally. To me, illustrated children's books are a natural extension of this African oral tradition. I consider myself to be a functional artist. I use my skills in drawing and painting to tell a story, but always, to me, the story, the human story, with all its pain and glory, that's the most important element. And I love doing work that is creative and central to my life, yet serves a collective function. In 1957, after a 4-year stint in the U.S. Air Force and after observing the new trend in American illustration, which seemed a more open medium for self-expression, I enrolled in the School of Visual Arts to study illustration and painting. The illustration classes were exciting, but the class assignments still had little to do with the life that I was living outside of the school, in my Black community. The painting classes did introduce me to a very dynamic form of realistic and abstract energy that forcefully stimulated my imagination. This period was also one of non-objective painting, abstract expressionism, and the beginning of pop art, where form seemed more important than content, and lack of emotion in one's work was supposed to be intellectually profound. How you painted seemed more important than what you had to say. In terms of storytelling, it was like cultivating the act of writing or speaking well as an end in itself instead of as a beginning. I felt in large part that facility and technique come from the head in hard work, but not always from the heart. But the heart is linked to emotion and courage. And the emotional quality, and that emotional quality is what breathes life into the best works. Pulling it all together and giving it a powerful heartbeat. That's exactly what I wanted in my work, to say something about what was going on right around me, what happened in the past, and what was going on inside me, and somehow tie it all together. But I was lucky. Right there in my neighborhood in Brooklyn, New York, I met 2 Black men who had a definite influence on my future artwork. Artist Ernie Critchlow, who drew and painted Black people in a realistic style, especially women and children, who looked and felt just like the people sitting right outside my door, showing you through his work the extraordinary in the ordinary. An artist, Jacob Lawrence, who just passed away a month ago, who through his paintings, his unique dramatic sense of design, told our story, our history as a people in the narrative paintings linked together by sequential order. Together, these 2 artists started the Fulton Art Fair, where I met not only other artists, but connected with the larger community of everyday people, starting me drawing from life every day in that community, striving to combine and trying to balance both realism and abstract design into one form. But what moods could I invoke with these skills I was developing? Could I transmit my deepest inner feelings through this work? And what techniques could I use that would finally give me finished art that told the story in the best way? Like all artists, I admired great draftsmanship, but those skilled artists whose tremendous passion clearly expressed in their work and for their work, they had the most emotional impact on me. Like Goya, William Blake, Jacob Lawrence, Kathy Kollwitz, Charles White, Romeo Bearden, Ernie Critchlow, Elizabeth Catlett, and Rembrandt. Aaron Douglas, a black painter, said, "Technique in itself is not enough. It is more important for the artist to develop the power to convey emotion. The artist's technique, no matter how brilliant it is, should never obscure his vision." But every day I was becoming more aware that developing and holding on to one's vision, especially in terms of social justice, is difficult in a society that in so many ways stresses form over content, profit over people, and shallowness over substance, where everyone, including artists, are encouraged, in the words of the late Tony Cade, to bargain away any wisdom they gain for goods and acceptance, unquote. It seemed to me that one is not encouraged here to enter into an emotional struggle against a system where conformity seems the logical course. And that conformity is seen as a normal function. Could I challenge all that through my art? Dr. Rollo May, the author of The Courage to Create, believes that traditional psychology, which is based on 4 centuries of Western thought, which sets reason over and against emotion, is an incorrect assumption when it applies to art, because he believes, and so do I, reason works better when emotions are present, because we cannot really see an object unless we have some emotional involvement with it. In his book, Dr. May points to a test he gave to 2 groups. One group, people who were strongly into transcendental meditation. The other group, people who were artists. He then showed both groups 2 sets of photographs. One set suggesting calm, peacefulness, order. The other set, disorder, chaos, and confusion. He then told them to all choose the photos they preferred. The transcendental meditation people all chose the quiet, calm images. All the artists chose those images of disorder and confusion. The transcendental meditation people chose to cool out, while the artists chose to go into the disorder, because making art is about going into and making order out of chaos. You cannot do that without entering the emotional struggle. The ability to live amid contradictions, especially in this society, requires character. And one of the steps towards building character in this society is the capacity to build solitude out of loneliness, to learn how to be alone with yourself and work. Then, just as important, learn how to connect with people and use those connections for balance in that work. In terms of my dual heritage, I wanted to use this kind of information in the most creative ways, funneled through my cultural heritage. And so after many years of illustrating books for children, starting with Moja Means One and Jambo Means Hello, books that clearly project a joyful image of African life and apparently are non-threatening and therefore more acceptable to the mainstream society. I chose to spend 20 years working on one picture book for children and adults that deals with the most agonizing experience of Black people throughout this world, going back to the original source of the pain, trying to create images that call up vividly the horror of the past in order to show the strength of the people who survived it and how essential this story is to everyone in terms of its healing potential, especially for those who don't want to go through it. In the words of writer Toni Morrison, the past is more infinite than the future. It's avoiding it, deceiving ourselves about it, that paralyzes growth. But in order to create the universal, one has to pay very great attention to the specifics. Universality emerges from truthful identity of what is. And that all started for me when I started in 1958 drawing from life the children and adults in my own black community in Brooklyn, New York.